Good evening. In the last hour, Somerset County Council has agreed cuts of almost £13 million on a day of austerity, designed to keep the authority from going out of business.
8 senior councillors approved a package that will see job losses, enforced unpaid leave and reductions in services. Only one area had a reprieve, and that was for young carers, but even that was temporary. Our Somerset correspondent Clinton Rogers has the very latest.
We went to Cree the other day and
These children are the human, vulnerable face of Somerset's cash crisis, a target for the cuts. What they all have in common is that they are carers for their families. Not easy when you're just 11.
Well, when my sister has seizures, I make sure she's okay.
I help my dad. He's got a bad back.
Do his meds. We help get him up.
These youngsters were in Pilton for a fortnightly meeting of young carers. They can access social services support here, get advice, take a break from caring. But young carers was on the list of must cut.
These are the most vulnerable young people. They are very often in danger of not attending school on time, not necessarily getting their exams, not having any friends because they're identified as being slightly different.
Don't let the 8 decide our fate.
The strength of feeling is clear. A protest today arguing that the 13 million cuts planned isn't a decision to be taken by the Conservative cabinet of just 8. The union unison calling for a pause for a full council meeting to be called to debate the crisis. Council staff are plainly furious.
I really do think the people at the top, the fat cats, need to sort of basically accept that what has happened is completely down to them.
The most difficult set of decisions.
Inside the council chamber, councillors who'd previously said there was no magic solution suddenly pulled a rabbit from the hat, announcing the cuts to the Young Carers programme would be deferred. And then the Conservative leader rounded on his own government, saying vicious Westminster cuts to local councils had caused this crisis.
It is hugely disappointing for me, for my administration and for Somerset. In many ways, in my darkest moments, I feel that we've been sadly abandoned.
And it's not just cuts to services. 130 jobs at the council will go. 80 within an organisation called Get Set, which provides support to vulnerable families, trying to prevent them ending in social care. One of those staff talked to me anonymously, her words voiced by an actor.
One day, a mother arrived at the children's centre with a bag and her 2 preschool children in tears. I spent the whole day finding her a woman's refuge to keep her and the children safe, sorted out money, food, clothes. A year later, she came to see me. She told me I had saved her and her children's lives.
Councillors insist they are listening, but these are difficult, painful decisions from which there is no escape. Now, in spite of those suggestions, those arguments that these were panic cuts simply being rushed through with protesters pleading for a delay, the Cabinet, as you said, voted through all those cuts within the last hour, £13 million worth of them, a unanimous decision. And those cuts going everything from road gritting to adult social services to park and ride schemes. The Conservatives say it had to be done. I spoke to the leader after the meeting, and I have to tell you, he was plainly choked, emotional about what he said was a sad day for Somerset. Opposition councillors, of course, see it differently. They are now calling for a full emergency meeting of the full council, because, of course, this was just the Conservative cabinet making the decision today. But I have to say the chances of that decision being reversed are pretty slim.
Clinton, thank you very much. That was Clinton Rogers in Taunton for us. And Somerset isn't the only council in the West facing tough choices, and no doubt other authorities will be watching very closely what's happening there in Taunton.
But if they do effectively go bust, they won't be the first. Our political reporter Robin Markwell's been to cash-strapped Northamptonshire, where the government had to step in to sort things out.
Northamptonshire, wealthy in parts, this is solid Conservative country. Not the kind of place you'd expect the county council to go bust, but after years of financial mismanagement, it did, making front-page news on the other side of the pond. Even reporters from Japan have been covering council meetings. Everyone asking the same question.
What can the situation in Northamptonshire tell us about the state of public services in Britain?
In some ways, Northamptonshire can be seen as the warning for other parts of the country.
Northamptonshire and Somerset have a good deal in common. Both are Conservative-controlled counties, both have kept their council tax low, and both have struggled to contain their spending in children's services. But Somerset's budgetary black hole is some £11 million. In Northamptonshire, it's much more severe, upwards of £60 million. Things got so bad here, the government took control. 2 men from the ministry sent in to balance the books. Purchases over £500 now cross their desks, all spending under severe scrutiny.
70% of the amount of money that this council spends is on contracts, external contracts. Some of those are clearly not very good value for money, so we're going to have to get into the business of renegotiating those. That actually should allow some money to be released for services. It's not all about service reductions.
But there have already been big cuts to services, the removal of bus subsidies among them. It's driven pensioners to protest, blockading the town centre.
What is the point in issuing bus passes if you haven't got a bus to use it on?
That's right. It's like we've said, they've taken our buses off, but they're not cutting our council tax.
It's buses today, libraries and children's centres too. Deeper cuts lie just down the road. They're even abolishing the county council in favour of new unitary authorities. It's a money-saving tactic Taunton is toying with, as Somerset seeks to avoid the warning lights flashing here. Robin Markwell, BBC Points West in Northampton.